A warm welcome and good morning to today's IAC event session, Design Thinking and Critical Thinking Innovation Design by Dr. Ramakrishnan Ramani, sir. He is a design thinker and faculty, School of Design Thinking, Intellect Design Arena, Chennai. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
I welcome our VP Academics, sir, who is always in support for organizing this event, and he is the president of this MHRD IAC Council of SRM IST Ramapuram campus. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
I welcome my co-coordinator, Dr. P Santhosh Kumar, sir, for this event. Welcome you, sir. So welcome you all for this today's MHRD IAC session on design thinking. So first, I would like to thank our chairman, sir, for supporting us in this event. Our co-chairman, Niranjan, sir, Dean ENT, Dr. Muralikrishna, sir, our president of IAC, and our VP Academics, Dr. Prabharan, sir, Vice President of this IAC, Dr. Raja, sir, HOD CSC, and our convener, Dr. Rajeshwari Mukesh, ma'am, HOD IT Department. And I thank all the staffs for joining this session. Welcome you all. So may I request academics to give an introduction?
Yeah. Thank you, madam. Indeed, I feel very happy that you could be able to organize a program, especially on the topic design thinking, which is a very well emerging one, where in futuristic, whenever whoever designs anything is supposed to know about the basic concept is this. And today we have actually an eminent and apt person, Dr. Ramakrishnan Ramani, who is a design thinker and faculty. Actually, excellent to have such a person. I hope definitely his experience will, what he is going to share with us, with definitely is going eye-opener to many of us, I can strongly say. Of course, design is nothing. Everybody would have heard about the terminology design like quality. It differs from person to person. How do they perceive the scenario? Especially quality, the level of expectation decides about the quality of any system or organization or any product. Similarly, design thinking, it's kindly completeness, you can say in simple words, especially in 5 different stages are there. Whenever we want to experience anything, we need to be there in the shoes of the people who are going to be the end user. So that is where it really starts. Actually, once you start feeling that, you know what way that system or organization or product, anything should be like. So naturally, many other things will be coming to your mind. So what are the various factors to be considered in designing and formulating things which is going to provide us a solution? Like empathize, being in their position, then you need to be capable of analyzing and actually synthesizing the various factors which are going to be connected in different forms, having an individual role of all these activities in the overall assembled construction or assembled structure. Then to provide that solution, we can very well invite ideations from the competent people or from any, because ideas, brainstorming basically, it can be through kind of competition like Smart India Hackathon the government is organizing. So the purpose is that to collect ideations from various competitive people, because people may come out with this different concrete solutions. They will be evaluated and the best one will be chosen. That doesn't mean that whichever not one, it's not worthy to be. Every solution is having some weightage. So then based on the chosen one, it has to be, you need to come up with a prototype miniature model, test for the various parameters and for its performance, and iterate it, then test it, then iteration. Actually, design thinking is not the one-time work. Naturally, iteration will be taking place, provided you logically, naturally the number of obviously the number of iterations may go down. Once it is frozen, it is satisfying all other ways and means, then we roll it to the commercial. I think when brief in my whatever I had in mind, I just share that. And definitely we'll be having an expertise, Dr. Ramakrishnan Ramani, with you. And even though I could not be able to completely participate, I request the organizers to share with me the video recording of this. I like to very eager to listen to the contents, what is going to be delivered by today's speaker. With these few words, I just wish this program a grand success. Let it not be simply for the sake of conducting, because lot of things which is going to be the futuristic technology, futuristic domain is, this is the one. I appeal to all the participants, please make use of this, be interactive, and take a lead from the points what you receive for your future questions. With this, once again, I thank the organizers for this wonderful opportunity given me. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your valuable speech. Before I'm welcoming Ramakrishnan sir to share his idea about today's topic, I want to give a small introduction about Ramakrishnan sir. So Dr. Ramakrishnan Ramani sir, he started his career from marketing communication to military history. He is fascinated by the dimension of human interaction, starting his career as a journalist in New Indian Express. He has experience in strategizing communication and content for various purposes like media, corporate communication, marketing, and learning. So he has a strong background in this area. So deeply interested in technological innovation, especially in areas of military technology. He worked as a market researcher in a leading research firm. Yes, a research firm covering military market developments in Europe and Asia. Dr. Ramakrishnan Ramani has worked with leading IT organizations such as CTS and Polaris. On the academic front, he holds a first-class master's degree and a doctoral degree in Defense and Strategic Studies, University of Madras. He also holds PG diploma in journalism and mass communication. Ramakrishnan sir has published over 15 papers in peer-reviewed journals and books, and has presented papers in national and international seminars. He also actively offers guest lectures at the University of Madras and for the Tamil Nadu Police. He is an active member of Chennai-based Military Heritage Group and Colors of Glory Foundation. So with this small introduction about you, I welcome you for your valuable speech, sir. You can take over the session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, ma'am. And thank you, Santhosh, sir, for inviting me for this program. I would like to start by congratulating and thanking the VP Academics for this brilliant introduction to design thinking. I think he has covered the gist of it. He has made my job much simpler. And there is one particular point that he started off with, which is to be in your end customer's shoes. Empathy is what he said. That is the crux of design thinking. That is the core of design thinking. If you look at any other forms of thinking, traditional thinking, critical thinking, right, any other methodology, agile methodology, and so on and so forth, the biggest difference between design thinking and all these other forms of thinking and approaches is that they are not human-centric. They're more process-oriented. They're more structured. Design thinking has a structure. It definitely has a process. But if the human element, the empathy, is removed from the equation, then design thinking completely fails to exist. That is the core of design thinking. So VP Academics correctly nailed it on the head. That is the core on which design thinking as a concept, as a philosophy is built. So today, in the next probably 1 hour, I would like to take you all through a very important aspect of design thinking, something that is not often touched about, but which is at the core. If you look at the internet, right, you'll come across many organizations like IDEO, Stanford University, University of West Virginia, a lot of organizations that talk of design thinking, right? And many organizations have their own approach to design thinking based on what is working for them, based on their philosophy. But that said, what is at the core is, do you have it in you to actually be a design thinker? That is what makes a difference, right? There are so many engineers, so many doctors, right? So many academicians, but what is it makes that excellent Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam? What makes a Dr. Sir Visvesvaraya as an engineer, right? When we talk of superlatives, we just have very few examples. Why is that difference? What makes them the top of whatever they do, right? That is exactly the concept behind being a design thinker as well, to have a design mind. So over the next, as I said, 1 hour or so, we will look into certain aspects of this. And that is what I think is very, very important when we are talking of innovation, right? There are so many startups. There are so many companies that want to innovate, that bring out so many products and applications to make life simpler for its users, to make the society better. But how many startups and enterprises actually succeed? Why do they fail, right? What is that missing element in the equation, as I had said? So let us look at some of these aspects today. So just to help me with my storytelling, let me share my screen, and I would like one student to tell me whether my screen is visible. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, it's visible, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. So friends, my student friends here, I would like you to be very active. I would like you to ask me questions, because design thinking is a team sport. Design thinking is not a one-man show. One MS Dhoni cannot come in the pitch and win the match, right? It has to have the entire team to make the game successful, right? That is how design thinking is. So I would like you all to interact. The more we interact, the more we all learn, right? That's how it is. So yes, so what you see here in the first screen is a very important and very interesting picture. You know, those of you in school, you would have studied, right? This proverb, birds of a feather flock together. All the crows are together, all the parrots will be together, all the eagles will be together. But in this picture, if you see, different types of birds are together. Why is that? Because if you look at the way birds see the world, and if you see how dogs, cats, cows, and other animals see the world, there's a big difference. Animals tend to look at their space in 2 dimensions, length and breadth. But birds have an additional dimension in which they perceive the world around them. And because of that capability, you will see that in one big tree, if you go to your native place, village, or a town, and you see these big banyan trees, right? You will see crows sitting together, parrots sitting together, eagles sitting together, doves sitting together, pigeons sitting together, different types of birds all sitting in the same tree. And how is that possible? It's only because birds believe that there is so much more to view, to consider than just 2 dimension. And that is how a design thinker's perception should also be. The mind should also be. Let us go into, or let me start with an interesting story, right? This is a true story that happened about close to 10 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, if I'm not wrong. And this story happened in our friendly neighbor, Nepal. What happened was they found out that a lot of children, especially from the rural side of Nepal, right? No, Nepal is a developing economy, even poorer than India, right? And most of it, 95% of it is largely villages. They are not having so many cities like how we have, like Delhi, Bombay, Chennai, Kolkata, Bangalore, and all that. They don't have that. So they found out that many children, right, especially from the rural background, they tend to die very, very early, especially when these children are born premature, right? So instead of covering the full gestation period in their mother's stomach, when these children are born premature, the survival rate is very, very low. And this came to the government's notice, and the government was obviously very disturbed. They did not know what to do. So the government called all the NGOs, they called the United Nations, they called their health ministry and all that, and they wanted to know what can be done. So while debating, while discussing this, the experts said that, sir, these children were born premature, so you need to increase the number of incubators in the country, because what does an incubator do? Basically, it creates an environment for the child to be in till such time that the child can naturally come out into the normal world that we are all in, right, today. So till that time, let us keep the child in an incubator. Nepal today does not have enough incubators, so let us try to get more incubators. So when the government thought this was a great idea, they brought more incubators. There were many companies that were happy to donate free of cost. So you had people from United Nations, various NGOs and all who said, yes, we'll give you incubators, take it. And the government started using that. But unfortunately, the number of premature children dying did not go down. Instead, the numbers were almost the same, just one small dip. And when all this was happening, there were a group of students from Stanford University who also went there, right? So university students like you. And they were obviously very concerned, because this is a question of children's life, right? A young infant, premature children were unfortunately dying. So these students, when they spoke to the government, and they wanted to see what they could do to help the situation. So when they went and saw the government's data, the government statistics, records and all that, they saw that there are some problems in that statistics. So what they did as a true design thinker, they went to the villages. They actually went and studied how the people are. And they noticed certain very important and interesting things. Number one, Nepal is largely rural, as I said, right? most of the people are villagers, and these villagers were not literate. They were illiterate people, largely illiterate. Number two, Nepal is a country that does not have very robust, very solid electrical supply, dependable electrical supply. Many times there were electrical outages, no power for long periods of time. If there's no power, how will an incubator work? It won't work, right? So that was a problem. Third problem, many of these villages were in the foothills of the Himalayas, bad roads, mud roads, kacha roads, right? No tar, no concrete, nothing like that. How could the ambulance go and pick these children in time, right? So multiple problems. So that's when these students also noticed that many a times the death did not happen when the children were in the hospital. The death happened so agonizingly just a few kilometers away from the hospital. Imagine the village is, say, 20 kilometers from the nearest hospital. The children many times died probably 5 kilometers from the hospital, 3 kilometers away from the hospital. That is so bad, right? So what these people did was that, okay, now these children need an environment, a system which will protect these children when they're traveling from their home, from their villages to the nearest healthcare center. So thus, considering all these parameters, they devised this beautiful product called Embrace cocoon, like the cocoon that you know that comes as a butterfly, right? That stage before a butterfly. What does this do? Just like the picture that you see here, what they do is there will be hot sheets, right? So something that you can dip in hot water. They are actually sheets, and there are special pockets in this bag in which you place the sheet, and then on that you place the child and you zip up the child. Of course, there is enough breathing space and all that. But the point here is that it is not electricity dependent. It is man portable, which means you can actually carry that bag while taking it to the hospital, right? And the child will be safe, just like in an incubator, till the time it reaches the hospital. So there is no dependent on electricity. There's no dependent on roads. There is no dependent to have a literate parent who can do this, right? So, so interesting. And they found that this was actually helpful in solving the problem to a very big way. It helped in meeting that gap between the home to the hospital. Beautiful example of design thinking, right? And this brings up a very, very important point. As what did these kids do? We will consider that a little later. But when we talk of design thinking, right, there is one very interesting word that comes out, design. And this is again something that our VP academic spoke about. If you remember what he said a few minutes ago, he spoke about design. What is design? Can anybody in this group tell me what is design, what design is according to you? What do you think is a design? Any of my friends here? What, according to you, is design? Is design something that you can associate with a cell phone? Is design a plan? Is design a process? What is design? Nobody?
To create, sir.
Okay, to create. Very good. Absolutely right. But to create what? And how to create? Can you explain it a little bit? Good point. What you stress on the word create. Absolutely right. Can you just little bit explain that?
Shall I?
Yes, yes.
To create an idea into a product, we need a design. Without a design, a shape cannot be created. Is it okay?
Absolutely. So you're talking of a blueprint, something like that.
Yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant.
To plan something, sir, to plan something, how it looks like, how it will be built.
Planning. Okay. Yes. Very similar to what Dr. Kavitha ma'am said, right? Blueprint, plan. Yes. Absolutely right. Any more points? One or two more points?
Sir, design is which is something new.
Brilliant. New. You're talking of innovation.
Which is new, like for example, which is Nova, like it's a kind of innovative thing where it will be different.
Superb. Superb, Nishant. Very good idea. Very good answer. New innovation, something new. Great, great. So if you look at all the answers that you gave, Dr. Kavitha ma'am, our friend who spoke first, Nishant, right? You all touched upon very important aspects of design. If you want to give it an academic definition, right, there are 5 very important factors that you need to consider if you want to define the word design. What is it? Design is actually a very conscious process to create a solution, right? The process should be conscious and innovative, right? 2 words. It should also look into the functional aspect as well as the aesthetic aspect of the solution. And all this is based on your user's needs. That is how you can define the word design. So like you all said, it is a plan, it is a blueprint. It is meant for something innovative, something new, right? So all you said. But the 5 key terms that you need to keep in mind while you're considering the word design is that it should be conscious. So it is something that you plan, you deliberate, there is discipline involved in it, right? It's conscious, it is innovative, like Nishant said, right? Something new. It's not, if it is the same thing while people consider your product, it is already there in the market. You're not doing anything new. So it has to be new. It has to look at the functional aspect and the aesthetic aspect. Steve Jobs once gave a very beautiful quote on design. So somebody asked him, sir, what is your idea of a good design? So Steve Jobs said, according to me, design is not how something just looks. Design is how something works, right? So there is also the beauty, the aesthetics, and there is the functional aspect of it. And finally, and most importantly, going again back to what VP Academic Sir said, right? Empathy. It has to have it should be based on a user's need. There should be a need for that product, right? Only then will that product ever sell. If there is no need for that product, why will people even buy, right? Why will people waste their money on something that they don't want? So it should all be based on a user's need. So now that said, do you think this is a good design? If you actually look at this very, very common thing, I'm sure everybody's house has multiple safety pins. My house at least has about 10, 15 safety pins. I'm sure everybody here, especially the ladies, right? Everybody knows that, and we have used this. Today you see this as part of badges also. The smiley badge that you wear will have a safety pin at the back. Do you know that this particular very simple tool that we use was invented 150 years ago? Long time ago, more than a century ago, right? And it has not changed one bit. Yes, materials might change, the size might change, the color might change. You might have a plastic cap on a safety pin. You see it now used with smiley badges and other badges, but essentially the function of this simple instrument, right, is to keep 2 pieces of fabric together. And the design of that has not changed one single bit. Over 130, 150 years ago, it's the same. Let us look at one more example of design, a very nice design. Can anybody tell me what this is? Who these people are? Do you know who this person is? There are 2 people on the screen that you see here, right? 2 people with this white cap carrying a lot of tiffin carriers on their head.
Sir, Dabbawalas?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dabbawalas. And you know why they are brilliant in terms of design? The average Dabbawala has not studied more than 7th standard, right? 7th, 8th standard is their average educational rate. Nobody has crossed high school. They don't speak English, largely Marathi crowd, right? And they don't use high-end technology. They are not like your Swiggy and Zomato with GPS and app and smartphones and all that. If you look at the communication they have, it will be in the back of a cigarette packet. They would have written some codes on a cigarette packet. They'll keep it in their pocket. And if you look at the top of the dabbas that they're carrying, it will have only 4 elements in it. It will be alphanumeric. It will have some geometric shape and it'll have some color. That's all there is in terms of the code. No GPS, no Google Maps, nothing. And do they have special logistics? Do they have all these special vans and bikes? No. Main this thing is trains, Mumbai trains. Last mile delivery is on cycle. Those little affluential people will probably take it on motorbike. That's it. Nothing fancy. And this has also been working for over 100 years. And it is so beautiful that they have defied Six Sigma. Today, Harvard University and all top universities are studying this as a case study. How are semi-literate people able to do this? And you know how Mumbai is. Mumbai is bigger than Chennai, much more crowded than Chennai, right? It is the financial capital of our country. And how is this happening? day in and day out for more than a century. Brilliant design. I'll share another example. There is much to be desired in this design. This is a foot over bridge, the type of bridge that we see here over Mambalam railway station, Tambram railway station, right? Since we are all in Chennai, you see this all every day, right? And this is the same type of scenario you see during peak office hours. You see such a huge crowd. So if you go back to the definition of design, right? This is very functional. It is meant to make people cross that railway track using a foot over bridge from platform 1 to platform 10 or whatever, correct? But then look at the aesthetics. Is this something that you enjoy? Do you get a great experience using this? Thank God, most of us are able-bodied. We have 2 hands, 2 legs. We can see, we can hear, we can speak. But look, consider our brothers and sisters who are not able to walk. Our brothers and sisters who are not able to see or not able to hear. How difficult it will be for them to cross this. Imagine an elderly gentleman, 70, 80 years ago, who needs a crutch. Can he climb this? Today, some of our main roads have that escalator system. But by and large, if you see our foot over bridges, they don't have that system. If they had all that functionality, if they're so inviting that you will want to use it, why do we still have accidents happening on railway crossings, especially near railway stations? It is not in some rural area that trains run over people. You see many accidents actually happening near Arakonam station, Tambram station, and places like that. Why does this happen? So there is some problem with this design. If you look at Velacheri, just to give you another quick example, Velacheri near this Dr. Kamakshi Memorial Hospital, there's the signal, right? If you look at that flyover, you'll see most of the traffic under the flyover. Very, very few people going over that flyover. And why? During peak hours, most people used a 100-feet road connecting Thoraipakam to Pallavaram, right? And from Velacheri, which either takes a right or a left to Thoraipakam or to Pallavaram. Very few people, I mean, lesser ratio in terms that go directly to Medavakam taking the flyover. What's the point? And in Bangalore, there are flyovers with traffic signals on them. Imagine that, right? So there is a lot to be thought about when it comes to design. So what do these examples tell you? What are the elements that define a really good design? If you consider any successful design, whether it is your iPhone, whether it is a Uber or a Swiggy app or anything that you think is brilliant, I just simply love this product or I simply love this app or service. Keep that in your mind. And let us see if that product or service actually has these elements in them. So if you talk of a great design, right, there are these elements that are very, very important. First of all, a design should be very, very simple. It should not be complex. The safety pin, the dabbawala, right? Any design that is very, very user-friendly is actually very, very simple. It should not make you search. It should not make you refer to a user manual. It is very intuitive, very simple to use. Secondly, it should offer you great experience, very good experience, right? The foot over bridge is a bad example. Nobody wants to use that given an opportunity, right? But on the other hand, some examples like the safety pin, good experience, nothing has changed. It does its job perfectly well. Frictionless, basically it means in your existing ecosystem, when you are using that product should be frictionless. It should fit into that ecosystem. Efficient, your product or that service should improve your efficiency. Dabbawalas, when men go to office in the morning, they leave very early, 5:30, 6 o'clock sometimes. Bombay is a large city. They have to commute 30, 35 kilometers to reach office. So they leave very early so that they can be in office by 8:30. The ladies in the house who prepare the lunch cannot get up so early many times and prepare it for them. So they have the dabbawalas who will pick it up at 10 o'clock in the morning, deliver it at 1 o'clock, and return the dabba again at 3 o'clock back to the house. Very efficient system. No extra complexity, nothing. And complexity reduction. If you remember this Tamil movie Nanban, starring Vijay and his 2 friends, or the Hindi movie 3 Idiots, right? In the mechanical engineering department, when the professor says, what is a machine? What does Vijay or Amir Khan say, depending on which language you watch the movie? Machine is something that reduces complexity. You want air, you switch on the switch, the fan rotates, you get wind, right? You get air. The zip in gents' trousers, that's the example Vijay uses, right? Up, down, up, down, up, down, your pants stays on your hips. Complexity reduction. So that is what a good design should enable you to. It should reduce complexity. Most importantly, designs are based on questioning assumptions. Today, if I tell you, when you go to a restaurant, right, to have your lunch or dinner with your family or your friends, what is the first thing you get? You get a menu card. Why should a restaurant have a menu card? Why can't, for example, if the waiter comes and says, sir, today we have chicken, we have mutton, we have sear fish or vanjaram or whatever, based on the items that they have. Or why should a hotel or a restaurant, am I audible? Can somebody tell me if I'm
audible only? Voice break has happened in between.
Oh, okay, okay. I just saw a message saying my net was unstable.
Yeah,
okay. Okay. So yeah, so when you go to a restaurant, why should you pay for the food? Why can't you pay for the ambience? Brilliant restaurant, Wi-Fi, good AC, good lighting, nice spacious place. Pay for the food. If you're spending 2 hours, pay 2,000 rupees. Don't pay for the food. You can eat for the food free. There are different ways in thinking. Cafe coffee, they redefined it, right? Why should people only go to a coffee shop to have coffee? Why can't they go there to conduct interviews? Madam said, I worked with the New Indian Express. You know where my interview happened? It happened at Cafe Coffee Day. So when the chief editor interviewed me, he said, Ram, come over to Cafe Coffee Day. Let's have the interview over a cup of coffee. It works. Many IT companies do that, right? So there is much that happens over a cup of coffee, like they say in the advertisement. Question the assumptions. And finally, exactly like what VP academics have said, right? Empathy. All these things are possible only if you build the foundation of empathy. And what is empathy? Empathy is that nature wherein you step out of your shoes and into the shoes of the end user. See the world how they see it. Experience the world how they experience it. That is very important, and that is what will help you to define or design good products. So what all can we design? If you actually want to know, you can design anything and everything that comes to your mind. Today, technology might not enable certain things. So if you say, Ram, I cannot design time machine. You cannot go back in time. Today, yes, as per physics, we are not able to. But who knows, 200 years down the line, we know how technology has developed, right? Last 100, 110 years, the scope of innovation of science and technology has been so steep, right? 100 years ago, we did not have aeroplanes. Today, we are talking of going to moon and beyond. We have been talking of flying, right? Just over 100 years. Human history has been at least for 3,000, 4,000 years. But only the past 100 plus years have been actually inventing and innovating and discovering so much. So what else can you design? Almost everything. Food system, right? So Madam said after 11:30, it's your lunch break. So this is a safe topic we can speak about. South Indian food system, brilliant example of design thinking. I'll tell you why. If you look at all the items here, idli, dosa, vada, uttapam, everything, it's all based on one ingredient, batter, right? Dosa mavu, right? And the beauty of it is, dosa mavu keeps fermenting day after day after day. It is fresh today, it will be a little stale tomorrow, it will be a little more stale tomorrow due to the action of yeast, bacteria in it. But look at the way our ancestors have designed this, leveraging this system, right? Because those days they did not have refrigerators, right? It's only today. But leveraging this, you are having such a great variety based on one basic ingredient. Idli, dosa, vada, uttapam and all that. And you complement it with chutneys and sambars. It might seem like a funny example, but just give it a thought. Think about it. Just using that dosa mavu, that batter, such a wide variety of food is being prepared. And imagine, my friends, that unstated requirement of the women in the house, your sisters, your mothers, your grandmothers, for those of you who are married and whose wives are at home, right? How much effort it is for them to make food every single day. And also for the women who are working here, Dr. Kavitha ma'am, I'm sure she has to take care of all this at home before she steps into the university, right? For her family. Like having this thing and leveraging it is such a beautiful example. It gives you so much time in your hands. It is not surprising that if you look at Tamil Nadu's cultural history, right? You have such great women who have been pioneers in dance, in painting, in academics, in medicine. You look at the rostrum in Madras University, you'll have such brilliant names, lots of women in there. Probably one reason could be because the kitchen was made easy for men now. Right? This is a very good example. Again, the reason why I said VP sir spoke a lot of important things is because he touched upon certain core concepts here. Prototyping is another word he used, right? Gillette is American brand, world number one when it comes to shaving brand. A couple of years ago, wanted to create a special razing product, a razor for men in South Asia, that is India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, this region. So their research and development team, their marketing team, they all got together and they came up with this product. And obviously they have to prototype it, right, before taking it to the market. Okay, 1 second. I'm just going to shut down some of my windows. I hope that's okay. Just give me a second. So I don't consume any bandwidth. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So they wanted to research and develop this product, and they did that. They assumed it was small. And so after designing it, they prototyped it. And to prototype, you need to prototype with the correct type of target audience, right? So what they did was, it's like for a person who has no hair, why should he give them a razor? Like we say, no, Tirupati ke mottaya types. So in similar lines, if a person is growing a beard or having long hair and does not believe in shaving, why do you have to test a razor on them? So these people, Gillette company, they tested this razor on South Asians in America, typically or Indian students, Pakistani students, Bangladeshi students who studied in the US university. They gave it to them, the students tested it, and they got the answer that it was a brilliant product. Please market it in India, it will sell. Gillette did that. And in 1 month time, completely failed. This was a big shock to Gillette. They did not know why this is happening. And so what they did, they went back to the drawing board, right? And they said, okay, we must go to India, we must go to Pakistan and see why this is failing. So they brought their entire R&D team here, came to India, went to tier 2 towns, tier 3 towns, to rural areas, and did research. Then they did research to see how Indians shave in India. And they found out that typically in these places, men shave very early in the morning. They are not blessed with sunlight, right? Because like in American bathrooms, as we see in a lot of English movies, there's a lot of light. There is hot running water. Many of our men, if you see, they rinse the razor on a mug of water or in a lota or like sombu, as we say in Tamil, right? For us, water is very precious. We don't waste water. So we rinse it in stagnant water. So the design of the razor was not sufficient to meet these shaving conditions in India. So this was a huge blind spot for them. They did not realize this. So they went back to the drawing board with all this knowledge that they got. They redesigned the product and they launched it in India. And in India, it is today very popular as Gillette Guard. So the next time you see a Gillette Guard advertisement on TV, right? This is the story behind the product. So the first time they rolled it out, it was not successful. The second time they did it, after coming to India and studying the way Indians shave in India, then they got the idea as to how it needs to be done. Now, these two stories, the story of South Indian food, right? Idli Vada Sambar and Gillette brings us a very important approach to designing a product. And this is what it is. And by the way, friends, this is a model that we at Intellect Design Arena have created ourselves based on our experience with our customers. So this is a copyrighted approach that we have. The first step is that you need to understand the user's requirement. And users' requirements typically come as both stated and unstated. What is stated? Stated is anything that the customer will tell you, sir, this is what I want. Madam, this is what I want. I want the product to be like this. I want the product to be like that. Unstated is something that they do not state because they also don't know. One simple example for all of you to think. When you do interior designing at your home, right? Especially in the kitchen, you do modular kitchen and all that, right? Who does it? Who runs the designing company? Who are the people who come and do it? It is the men who come and do it. But who is the end user? It is the women of the house who are end users. Many a times you'll find that there is one big complaint in modular kitchen. Sir, in the alamara mela vandu romba height vechirukanga enakku ettave maatengudhu. Why? Because women are shorter in stature, men are taller in stature. If a man comes and measures and according to him has kept that height, for women it will be taller. My grandmother was less than 5 feet tall. My mother is just about 5 feet tall. And if I give her a 5.5 foot, 5 3/4 foot of Almira, she will not be able to use it. Every time she'll have to call me and say, get me this sugar, get me that salt. Bad design. That is unstated need. The people who have to use it should be the people who should give you the requirements. Many a times they don't know. So it is very important for the design thinker to sit with the end user, to listen to them, to dialogue with them, and to most importantly, observe them. Only by observation will you understand what is the unstated need of a user. The second important thing is to observe. And what do you observe? There are two things that you need to observe: patterns and anti-patterns. What is a pattern? A pattern is anything that gives you a successful outcome. A plus B whole square gives you a result. 2 into 2 is 4. It's a result. These are patterns. You know that if you put 20 people for 20 days, each day working for 20 hours or 10 hours, you will get so much of a result. That is a pattern. You know how it is. An anti-pattern is just opposite. How much ever you might try to solve a problem, to come up with a product, if you keep failing, that is an anti-pattern. So the sooner you identify an anti-pattern and overcome it, the better it is, right? If you're not able to overcome it, at least bypass it and don't waste your time, energy, resource on that effort, because you're not getting that result. But in design thinking, if you're able to convert an anti-pattern to a pattern, that is something that is not successful, that is not working, into something that helps you to overcome and work, that means you have achieved a milestone. It's a benchmark. It is something really great. Right? And understanding anti-patterns is very, very important, because that is what will reveal to you the unstated requirements of the customer. Why things don't work? Because you have not understood the unstated need. You're only going by the stated need. There are many things that the customer does not know. Let me give you one more common example. If you go to a doctor's clinic, right? The patient will come and say, doctor, எனக்கு 3 நாளா ஜுரம் இருக்கு, எனக்கு 2 நாளா ஜுரம் இருக்கு, விட்டு விட்டு வந்து போகுது. The problem is fever or jaram is only a symptom. It is not the problem. The doctor knows why the problem is. It could be because of headache. It could be because of a stomach indigestion problem. It could be because you have a bad wound on your foot that is infesting, and that infestation is leading to a fever. That is the body's way of fighting against infection, right? Like when people, they say when somebody is infected with COVID, with corona, one of the symptom is fever. Fever is not corona. Fever is a symptom that that person has corona. But patients கிட்ட போய் நீங்க ஹாஸ்பிடல்ல பாத்தீங்கன்னா what will they say? Doctor, எனக்கு 4 நாளா ஜுரம் இருக்கு. Please give me something to cure my fever. The doctor knows that is not the cause, right? So that is the unstated thing. The third thing you must know is to connect the dots. Very important. What is connecting the dots and what is within the box and outside the box? If I am a doctor and I want to solve a problem and I reach out to the people, right? Like for example, what Nepal government did. If they wanted to solve the issue of premature children from dying, they reach out to hospitals, to medical consultants, to United Nations, World Health Organization and all that. Right? So that is connecting within the box, in the same department, same institution, same industry. That's within the box, something that you can directly relate to. Outside the box is when you're looking at a totally different inspiration. I'll give you again very common example, very popular example in Tamil Nadu. Arvind Eye Care Hospital, headquartered in Madurai. When the founder of Arvind Eye Care Hospital, Dr. Govindappa Venkateswamy, wanted to increase the number of branches, at the same time to keep the operating cost low, because most of his customers are who? Rural people, villagers, farmers and all that. You can't charge them 10,000 rupees for an eye operation, right? Even giving 100 rupees is a big thing for them. So keeping the cost low, and if you look at Arvind Eye Care's this thing, it is free for most patients who cannot afford. They only charge from patients who can afford to pay, right? How do you maintain that model? And yet, how do you expand the business? Huge challenge. So when he brought this to his doctors all said, sir, let us go to government hospital, let us go to Apollo, let us go to some other hospital, see how they do it. But you know what Govindappa Venkateswamy did? This doctor, he flew 12,000 kilometers away. He landed in America. He went to a place called California, and there he went to McDonald's, to a food company, right? To this fast food joint, McDonald's. We all know McDonald's, burgers, French fries, milkshake. He went there. Why? Because if McDonald's can promise you the same quality of burgers, French fries, milkshake across the world, they're there the entire world, right? Not only in America, they are even there in Tamil Nadu. You come to Tambram, in Tambram railway station, there's a McDonald's joint, right? You go to SRM, this Katanguluthur campus, 3 kilometers away from that, there is another McDonald's. right? I'm sure there'll be few around in Ramapuram as well. So basically, it's the same. Wherever in whichever McDonald's you eat, the French fries will taste the same. The milkshake will taste the same. If they can replicate the business, can I follow their pattern and do that in medical industry? That is connecting outside the box. And finally, very important is to unearth blind spots. The Gillette story that I told you, right? Testing prototyping on Indian students in America and not Indians in India. There's a big difference. Nama makkal da andu urla poi padikiranga. But the bathroom in which those boys are sharing is very different. They have running hot water 24 hours a day. They have beautiful, brilliantly lit bathrooms. How are our homes? Do we have 24 hours running hot water? No. Do we have 24 hours water supply at home? Many times no. Right? How is the bathroom illuminated? Especially in villages. So that is a blind spot. And the sooner you uncover a blind spot, the better it is. Like Gillette Mari, you come up to prototyping and you go to marketing, and market le fail aachna, it's a big problem. They all went back all to square one. Tirupiyum poitu design pannanga. So unearthing a blind spot very early is very important. Now let us look at some very interesting slides. Very few slides, but I want you to look into it and observe these slides very closely. I will not talk, just observe and then tell me. Because what we are going to now get into in the next part is three very, very important laws of design thinking. Look at this screen, Yahoo. Google. Does anybody know who this lady is? Any of my friends who like Olympics, who like sports? I'll give you a clue. Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Any idea? Any clue? If you can't say it, you can also put it on the chat box. Okay, so this lady is Dr. Anna Kaisenhofer. She is a postdoctoral fellow in the University of Austria, in the technical university, and she is a mathematician. She is a brilliant about her is that she won the women's gold medal for cycling. So what is so great about that? I'll tell you that story. But first, let us get into the three laws and then I'll explain. There are three fundamental laws in design thinking, right? The first law is this: less is more. If you remember Yahoo's portal, the slide that you saw, and Google's portal, you saw the big difference, right? Actually, you go to Yahoo to search for something. For example, I'm searching, what is the distance between Chennai and Madurai? Simple. And I open Yahoo search engine and I type that. But when I open the search engine, what do I get to see? I see Yahoo News, Yahoo Finance, Yahoo Healthcare, Yahoo this, Yahoo that. It's shouting so many things on the portal. But on the other side, look at Google. Plain white, it's just white like the screen, right? The only options you see is Gmail, Google Images, in which language do you want to search? Are you a Tamilian? Are you a Malayali? Do you speak Hindi? Do you speak English? That's all. Just that little option for you to customize. What is the difference? The difference is that Yahoo believes that they are a powerful search engine and they know what you want. And so read this, read that, read this, read that, check this, check that. All that you came there was to see what is the distance between Chennai and Madurai. Google knows this. Google knows what you want. Their promise is, sir or madam, if you want to search something, you know what you want to search. My promise is that I will give you your result in 2 seconds. Because my algorithm, my internet algorithm is so powerful. If it is there on the internet, you will get it immediately. That is all my promises. Now we know where Yahoo is, we know where Google is, right? If you look at the period 2000, 2002, 2003, under title, around close to 20 years ago, there was this very popular brand of mobile phone called BlackBerry. Very popular. Corporate world, every executive should have a BlackBerry, although status symbol, right? If I have a BlackBerry and coffee title, I just keep composing my email on that because it has a QWERTY keyboard, my laptop, desktop, It's very easy to compose. At that time, they were thinking of adding one more button to make sending that email very easy. And the button press panna, you compose panni email unde takkuna outbox lo poidum. At the same time, couple of kilometers away, there was another gentleman in another company who was saying, why should mobile phones have buttons at all? Whatever button irundha porada, your power button. Switch on, switch off, enough. Right? That was Steve Jobs, and he was talking about iPhone. My customers know what apps they want. They know what they want. All that I'm going to give them is a great experience. My phone will look great. The user interface is excellent. The camera and all that is excellent. Whatever he or she wants to do with the phone is their problem. But I will ensure that the experience is great. Just opposite of what BlackBerry was thinking, right? Less is more. Just because you have so many things to give, you have 100 products to give. You do not have to give 100 products to your customer. They don't want 100 products. Give only the products that are really important and necessary for them. People will love you for that. Your customers will love you for that, right? The second law, the law that states that 2% or the last 2% of what you do, the last 2% is equal to 200% of your full effort. This is basically the law of differentiation. How am I different from my competitor? How is my product different from my competitor's product? We all know that there are so many brands of Chinese phones like Vivo, Oppo, Huawei. But still, if you look at the majority of people who use a major chunk, it's either iPhone or Samsung. They most of the competitions between them, and that's because of the brand and the promise that they have. And this is what we are saying. The last 2% makes 200% of the effort. The example for this is that professor, Dr. Anna Kaisenhofer, who won the gold medal. She was competing against the then world champions, which was a cycling group from Netherlands, from Holland, right? And the entire world believed that it is this Dutch team from Netherlands that will win the race. But this lady, Anna Kaisenhofer, she won with 90 seconds difference. She crossed the finishing line, and after 90 seconds only, the second person came. That was a huge gap. 1.5 minutes is a huge gap. And how did she do that? That's where she applied that last 2%. She's a mathematician with a root in physics. She applied mathematical formula, mathematical principles to know the entire route. This happened in Japan. The route was about 138, 139 kilometers long. She knew the gradient, where it goes up the slope, where it goes down the slope, where does she have to speed up, where does she have to slow down, where does she have to take a turn, and how should she take a turn, everything by applying mathematics, right? The other people also were very meticulous, but they used the standard coach, they used the standard people to help them, team, the equipment and all that. But this lady did that extra 2%. And that's what helped her. She is not a professional cyclist. She's not a sports person. She loved sports. She used to do long distance running, and then she moved into cycling because of some injury. But that winning was because she applied last 2%. Another example, for a 5-star hotel, 7-star hotel can a difference. Not big difference, right? It is that last 2% of customization which is important. The third law is what we call the theory of prioritization. Basically, what it means is focus your effort on only those things that are most important. 1000-gram items mela first effort porunga. Then you can focus on 100-gram item and 10-gram item, right? Don't waste your effort on 10-gram items, losing focus on the 100-gram, 1000-gram item, sorry, right? That is what is most important. And if you consider this third law and the first law, less is more, you will understand. Why less is more and what is it that you should give? You should give only those 1000-gram items to people, the things that people really want. That is what is most important. Second version, third version, அப்புறமா releases பண்ணுவாங்க இல்லையா, different products, iPhone 10, iPhone 11, iPhone 12, iPhone 13. You can bring those things then, but focus on what matters the most. And by doing that, you're actually ensuring the last 2%. You're actually creating a difference between your product and others' product. Any successful product or service in the market today, innovation, right, is based on these three. எங்கேயாவது ஒரு law வந்து அவங்க follow பண்ணலைன்னா, if they don't adhere or follow any single law here, any one law, if they follow two, great, but if they fail to follow any one, that product will have problems tomorrow in the market. These three are like Newton's laws of physics, right? Absolutely, they have to be followed. If they are not followed, the product will not be successful. So what is design thinking end of the day? Design thinking is, if you summarize, has these three elements at its focus. It is human-centered. Again, what the VP academics said, right? The human being has to be at the center. You remove the human being, it is not design thinking. It has to be future-focused. And like what one of my friends said, innovation, right? That word he used, creating something new. It has to create value. So this is what design thinking is: human-centered, future-focused. It has to be for a long term. It is not like ad-hoc. Nama metro alanga on the road podra mari, right? You had rainy season, roads had potholes in them. What will metro come and do? They'll put some tar, they'll level it off and go off. You'll see patches and patches of roads being laid. Next rain will come, again you'll have potholes there. That is not a long-term solution. But design thinking says that the solution should be long-term, it should be future-focused, and it should create value. So what is the difference between design thinking and other forms of thinking? Quickly, some top differences between two. In traditional thinking, if there is a problem, the first thing that everybody will think is, what is the right answer to that problem? What is the solution to that problem? In design thinking, it is the opposite. What is the right question that I should ask if there is a problem? If I say children are dying in Nepal, premature children are dying in Nepal, that is a huge problem. How do I solve it? What is the right question that I must ask to see what is the root cause of the problem? Now, I should not say, oh, premature children, incubator use pannunga. No. What is the right question? Second thing, in traditional thinking, there is a lot of talking that's done. In design thinking, there's a lot of listening. Listen to the end users. Be with them, live with them, observe them. Traditional thinking, lot of data. Data is important. Data lama, you cannot progress. But data, my friends, will tell you what is happening. Design thinking uses stories which will tell you why it is happening. Why is more important than the what. Why did we have an earthquake? Why was there suddenly an explosion in a building? Right? You would have read in the newspaper, Netiki, Bombay Harbor, or Indian Navy ship, or explosion. There were 3 sailors who died, 11 people injured. We know what happened. Data tells you 3 died, 11 injured, so much loss and all that. But why? What was the story? Did somebody light a cigarette in the ship where it should not be lit? Was there some short circuit in the battery? That is important. Traditional thinking talks of events, of various events that happen. Design thinking talks of experience in that event. What is it that the end user, what is it that the people are actually feeling? Finally, traditional thinking talks of facts, figures, numbers, just like this, this thing like data. Design thinking talks about the feelings in it, right? It's absolutely only about the human being, about the end user. So that is the difference between traditional thinking and design thinking. So if you want to look at comprehensive design thinking, actually how design thinking is practiced and used across the world, there are 4 very, very important things. It's what we call a 4-pronged approach. There should be 4 elements to it. One is the design mind, which I'll quickly touch upon over the next 5 to 10 minutes maximum, right? Which is tell you how a design thinker should think. The second is there should be a process. Remember, again, VP sir said there is a 5-step process, 6-step process, prototyping, this, that, brainstorming. There is a process. There are frameworks. Certain things that work well become frameworks. So you adhere to that. And very, very important, there should be a design space. The best example that comes to my mind now is what we are going through. You're all at your homes. I am at my home and we are connected via online medium, right? Virtually. If that is required, why does SRM need to have such beautiful campuses in Ramapuram, in Kattan, Kolattur, and other parts of the state? And why does the management need to invest on this experience for students like you? Why should they have that space? It is because when everybody come together for one particular activity, education, to teach and to learn, to educate, it is best when you all come together, when you have a laboratory, when you have a classroom, when you have a library, when you have an auditorium, when you have a sports field. Everything is around the development of the student. Yes, today education is happening, like you're listening to me, right, when I'm speaking. But this experience will be 10 times better when I see you in your classroom or in the auditorium, and I'm able to walk up to you and say, my friend, do you understand this? What is your opinion? And you're able to reply to me and say, no, Ram, I do not understand this. Today, unfortunately, because of the conditions, we are locked up. So In design thinking, space is also important. All design thinkers, all stakeholders should come together, should sit together and design. So if you look at design thinking from our perspective, School of Design Thinking, Intellect's perspective, design thinking has two steps. First is design the thinking, that is preparing your mind. And after that, then you start thinking the design, which is basically design tools, design process, framework, and all that. When these two things come together, that is when you actually have design thinking. So what are these things that are important when it comes to the design mind? I skipped mentioning right about design mind. If you consider the human mind, your mind, my mind, the faculty's mind, everybody's mind, there are what we call 13 musical notes that are very, very important. We all know of the 7 notes, right? Sare, Gama, Padani, right? Just like how you make a chord, if A.R. Rahman or Ilayaraja wants to make that beautiful chord for a song, there are 2 or 3 notes that come together to make a chord, right? Likewise, in the human mind, no one thing works alone. There are different things that work in our mind. How we have divided it is in groups of 5 plus 5 plus 3. Audible? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So there are, as I said, 5 elements plus 5 elements plus 3 elements. And I'll quickly touch upon that. What are these 5 elements? We call the first 5 is what we call the drivers of design or drivers of growth. And this is especially applicable to you students, right? I'll tell you why. The first is skill, right? This is something that SRM is so beautifully giving you. You're learning how to program using Java, Python, SQL, so on and so forth. You're learning skills. That's what an educational institution offers you. But after your 4th year, when you're getting into a job, right? When you're getting into the corporate, after 3, 4, 5 years, you get something called expertise. How? Because you keep applying this skill again and again and again and again, you become an expert in that. Imagine this young boy, 12-year-old, 13, 14-year-old boy in a mechanic shop who's repairing motorbikes, right? We see this in our neighborhood. Young boy, he has not even gone to school. He's been a school dropout, but he knows by listening to your motorbike what the problem in the motorbike is. Is there a problem in the diffuser? Is there a problem in the battery? Is there some oil leakage? Just by the sound, he knows that. Why? Because he's an expert. He has been doing the same job again and again and again. He knows the bike 10 times better than you know your bike, right? He's an expert. And that's what you get when you keep applying this skill every day over a period of time. But at the same time, when you upskill yourself, when you start observing other things in the job, for example, if you're working in Intellect in my company, right, and you're coming as a developer, you also know the business side of it. You also know the financial side of it. So you are exposed to new domains. This is exactly what SRM is doing here. When Dr. Kavitha ma'am arranged for this program, she wants to give you all multiple perspectives. It is not just computer science. There is something called design thinking. There is something that she brings to you later, right? That might seem different. But if you look at the bigger picture, what we call perspective, that is when you observe, okay, there are so many things that come together. When the chief minister of a state, when Stalin has to say that there is lockdown going to happen, what are the different things he looks into? He does not just look into COVID and hospital and what the health secretary says. He also looks at the industry minister. He also considers tourism department. He looks at law and order. There are multiple things he has to consider before he takes a decision, says, okay, citizens, unfortunately, we have to go on for a lockdown for the next 2 weeks. So this is why. But to make that decision, he has to have a big picture. And that's what you get when you start applying this in work. I'll give you again simple example you all can relate to. Amazon. We all buy things from Amazon, right? 20 years ago, when Jeff Bezos started Amazon, you know what inspired him? It was not a new concept. In America, during the 1980s and 90s, there was a concept called postal catalog, right? Basically, very nice books, magazines, which had pictures and description of various stationery items, various products, right? Pen, pencil, notebooks, and so on. You have to go through them. At the end of it, there'll be a postcard. You fill up what all products you want. You send money order. That company will process everything and send you the product via post. It already existed. Jeff Bezos was working on an e-commerce portal and he knew the advantages of the internet. And what did he do? He connected both postal catalog with e-commerce. Today you have Amazon. Same thing with Uber and Ola. Uber and Ola do not own a single car. What they do, they breed the haves and the have not. I don't have a car, but I want a car to go to Thiruvamayur. So I use the app and then I book a cab, I go there. Simple. All this has been done. Why? Because they get the perspective. Once you get perspective, that's when you get these ideas, the Amazon idea, the Uber, the Ola and all that, right? Because the big picture, if you look at innovation, my friends, again, a small homework for all of you, do research and see that all the brilliant innovations that have happened in the world has happened only because 2 or 3 different fields have come together. A doctor will not be an innovator, but if you see, an engineer will be a great innovator when it comes to medical healthcare, when it comes to healthcare technology. Not a doctor, it will be probably an engineer, might even be somebody totally different, an artist maybe. Great research. There is one book called The Medici Effect, MEDICI, Medici, that's the name of an Italian family during the Renaissance period. And the book is called The Medici Effect. And it tells you how people from different fields come together to make great innovations. That is the idea. That is what I'm trying to say behind this part called idea here. Different perspectives will give you a great idea. And finally, you get something called alignment, right? You align to a higher purpose. You are not just sitting in a company doing coding, testing and all that. You start looking at the bigger picture. How do I help world economy? How do I help the Reserve Bank of India to make banking in the country better, right? So these are the 5 drivers of design. In parallel, there is something called 5 frictional forces, which is not bad. Though it is using the word frictional, it is not a bad word. You need it a little bit like salt in your rasam or in your sambar, no? Too much salt is bad. Too little salt also does not make the sambar taste good. So you need it in the right quantity. What are these 5 frictional forces? The first is doubt. If you have doubt, that's good. That means you think that there could be a mistake, but immediately seek approval from your seniors, from your peers, overcome that, clarify your doubt and move on. Because if you try to do something when you're having a lot of doubt, many times that will create problems, right? Your answer, your result will not be good. Second is conflict. What is conflict? Conflict is not a bad word. Conflict means there is a difference in opinion, in perspective. If 5 of you come together to do a project, you will say, sir, in this version of the project, I want 5 releases. Your friend will say, no, let us do 7 releases, 7 features. Another friend will say, no, we'll do only 3. Different perspectives. But the only way to overcome a conflict is to see the big picture and thus to have a dialogue, not to fight it out. We don't want debate. What we want is dialoguing. Understand what is the correct thing to do. What is important here is to know what is right or not, who is right? So once you overcome that, the next thing is anger. Anger is something that we all have experienced, right? But the way in which this has to be overcome is by accepting that sometimes in life there are problems. And these problems are beyond your control. And what is beyond your control, you can do nothing about it. So accept it and move on. Don't stick into that anger. Don't be angry because you waste your energy. Fear is the 4th item here. What is fear? Fear is typically something that you get when you're trying to do something for the first time. When you're going to the swimming pool and you don't know how to swim, you get fear. You're afraid of water, right? When you're asked to speak in public, you're asked to stand in the auditorium and make a speech, you're afraid. But then the only way to overcome a fear is to develop courage, right? Today, we know that even great speakers like Barack Obama and other people have that fear every time they go to the stage. But develop that courage, jump into it. That is only when you're able to overcome fear. And finally, anger or ego, sorry. Ego is something that seniors get. All this professors, senior professors, deans and all that, right? It's typically because they feel, I've been in this industry for 25 years, 30 years. I know it all. Industrialists, people who have been running industry for many years. But then once you have this feeling of ego, I am my class topper. For 4 years, I've always topped my class. I'm the college topper. I'm the university topper. There is nothing more for me to learn. You will never grow. So to overcome that, you must develop humility. Again, a common example, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Brilliant scientist, rocket scientist, first citizen of India, the people's president, right? He has reached the epitome of how an Indian citizen should be. But you have all noticed him, how he speaks when he reaches out to school children, how he reaches out to students like you in colleges, right? He never misses an opportunity to interact and to learn. And that is what makes him so great. Lovable by every Indian, right? All of us love him. There's no doubt in that. Why? It's because of that humility that he has, right? And humility helps you to grow. And finally, there are 3 important things. So on the 13 musical minds, we saw sepia, the first 5, decaf, the second 5, and the last 3, which we call capacity levers, because this directly impacts the way you perform. The first is vulnerability. You are all very convenient. If there are any fourth year students here, you are so convenient. 3 years you have been in this university. You know your class. Everybody knows you. Your teachers know you. Your faculty know you. You are absolutely comfortable. This is your comfort zone. But friends, couple of months from now, you will get into the corporate world. Very different environment. Every single day you have to perform. Your benchmark will keep changing every time. Performance cycles are different. Appraisals are different. You have to keep innovating in the way you do. You are in a very vulnerable zone, especially in the first few months when you join the corporate world, right? You have to keep performing. But friends, that is the best place to be. If you are in Chennai, you have been in Tamil Nadu for all your years, all your life, and suddenly you are asked to go to Jaipur. They speak Rajasthani. They don't even speak Hindi. They speak Rajasthani. How will you go and survive there? Vulnerable place. But that is when you start thinking 10 times more. How can I do this better? How can I do this easier? How can I do this safer and faster? Your thinking capacity goes up 10 times. So being vulnerable is actually very, very good. The second is appreciation. Being appreciated and also appreciating others. When you're appreciated, your self-confidence goes up so much. You know, there is one research that goes out that when people like me who jump jobs, right? 10 years I'm in one job, then I shift to another job. Why do I shift? Better salary, more money, right? Obviously. But after the first 3 months, you see your pay slip, you see your salary slip. First 3 months, it look very nice. From the fourth month, you get bored. Same salary, what is the difference? Yeah, I'm making so much, so what? But appreciation, every time you are appreciated for something you do, no, your self-confidence grows. Till yesterday, I was doing only so much. Why can't I do something more today? And because of that, your capacity to perform goes up 10 times more. And finally, limiting belief. A feeling that, no, I cannot do this. I cannot speak English. I cannot speak in public. I am not good in mathematics. I do not know coding. This kind of feeling comes, right? That's called limiting belief. I don't know. I cannot do. I'm not good in this. If you have such a feeling, my friends, your capacity to perform will come down. Overcome that limiting belief. There is always a first time for everybody. VP Academy, sir, is a stalwart, is a veteran in the industry today because once upon a time, it was his first day in office, right? He had also had these fears. But sir, Dr. Kavitha, madam, Professor Santhosh, sir, they all overcame their limiting belief to be the experts that they are today. It's only by overcoming this. So when you overcome your limiting belief, your opportunity, your capability to grow will go up 10 times more, right? So this, my friends, is what I wanted to quickly share. I know I kind of overshot by 9 minutes. It's 11:39. But this is what I quickly wanted to share when it comes to design thinking, the design mind, and what you need to innovate. Because to innovate, you need to have the right mindset. You need to have the right approach. Innovation doesn't happen for everybody. You know, there is this very interesting story of Thomas Alva Edison, who failed to invent the light bulb 10,000 times. But he said, I have found out 10,000 ways of how not to do a light bulb, right? That is the mindset we need to overcome, to question assumptions, to develop deep empathy. These are all the foundations of design thinking, which will actually help you in creating a human-centric solution, an innovative solution for your end users. So any questions, friends? I see 2 things on chat. Oh, okay, feedback. Okay. Any questions? Or was I like too much for everybody? I know typically this is something that we do for at least 2 hours. This webinar happens for 2 hours. So I try to put them together and, you know, share only the crux of it. The design mind thing is something that we take place. So in our workshops, that's how it is. And just before I finish, I would like to share one important note. Kavitha madam knows that since I have many of my friends here, my student friends, there is this program on 22nd January that the chairman, our chairman, Mr. Arun Jain, is taking exclusively for 3rd and 4th year engineering students, for you folks. So if you have not received a note from Dr. Kavitha ma'am or from the authorities of the institution, please reach out to them, because this is basically going to be a program on what you need to do very well in your career. Arun Jain is an industry veteran. He is a first-time entrepreneur. He comes from a very poor family of 10 children. He's the 8th child in his family. Very middle-class family, but he now is a successful entrepreneur who started Polaris. right? And now we have Intellect Design Arena, which is a unicorn company, right? It's listed in Indian stock exchanges, Bombay and National, and also in the New York Stock Exchange. So very successful entrepreneur. And he's going to tell you based on his experience, what you need to do to come up in life, in your career and so on. So I would not want you folks to miss it. It is free. There is no money charged, and you will also be certified. So you'll get a certificate by participating, right? So please don't miss the opportunity. January 22nd.
Already we posted the message, poster and information. Again, I will give you the same content.
Sure. Yes.
Any questions, please?
Good afternoon, sir. I have two questions.
Yes.
Sir, like I have participated in a few ideathons and hackathons, sir. I have seen like a lot of innovative ideas, different ideas, where they have used their complete thinking capacity and their design was perfect. But after winning the hackathons, their ideas is not coming out to the real world. Why, sir?
Great question. Very good question, Nishant. They win a hackathon, but they are not able to make it successful in the real world. Brilliant. I will like to ask
Yes,
that.
sir, but they are providing the incubation support, funding, everything they are competition organizers are providing, but not coming out.
Great. Where do you think the problem is?
I don't know, sir.
See, if you look at the success of a product, there are many things that needs to be considered. The most important thing that any entrepreneur needs to consider is, are you actually pitching this to the right audience? If you ask me, is product development important or customer development important? What should come? Both are important, absolutely. But what takes precedence? What comes first? It is always customer development. First of all, one should know what is required, right? Just because we have a brilliant idea does not mean that's an idea that is sellable in the market today. Do you know that when Apple came up, before it launched its iPad, they launched a mobile, the iPhone first, and then it came up with the iPad, despite the fact that the iPad was actually much more ready than the iPhone. Why? Because Steve Jobs and his team wanted to know whether the people who are buying the iPhone are attuned with the user interface, they are attuned with the color scheme, with the font, with the way the product responds, right? Apple products have a uniqueness about them. He wanted to test it out before he launched the iPad, right? So what I want to say here is, first of all, is your product actually market ready? Go back to the Gillette story, right? What made it incomplete? What made it fail in the market? That should answer your question. There are many products. There's this very interesting product called Segway. I'm sure all of you had watched this movie Dashawataram, right? Kamal Hassan's movie, right? Either in Hindi or in English. There is this one scene when this scientist, Kamal Hassan, he goes from one part of his laboratory to another part on a special vehicle with just two wheels. It's called Segway, right? When Segway was launched in 2004, 2005 or sometime around that time, it was considered to be the next innovation in human mobility, the way people move across. But you know what? They failed. They failed completely. They spent millions and millions of dollars to R&D that product. The biggest questions that people ask at the end of the day is, one, is this a product or is this a solution? What is this supposed to help me to do? Two, okay, I am able-bodied, I can see, I can hear, I have two hands and legs, I can balance. It's a self-balancing device, by the way. But how does a differently able person use it? Can I use it to climb stairs, right? For law enforcement, for traffic police, if you are violating the traffic, how will they penalize you? Are you a car or are you a two-wheeler? In countries like US and in many countries in Europe, you have a special lane for cyclists, for people who are going on cycle. Two-wheelers are not allowed on that. I mean, motorbikes are not allowed on that lane, right? It's only for cycle. Where does the Segway fit? Is it like a cycle or is it like a motorbike? It is a very slow-moving device. You would have watched it in that Kamal Hassan movie, right? Where does it fit? There were a lot of questions that were not answered. And because of that, today we know that Segway is a failed product, right? Millions of dollars. It had a big brand also. People know the name Segway. It failed. So Nishant, to answer your question, great idea, you are incubated. When you try to take it to the market, it failed. There are many, many blind spots. It's very important for that team to use the design thinking way to see where they fail. Remember, that's 4-step approach, ending with blind spots. What is the blind spot you missed? What is the blind spot that your mentors missed that they were not able to tell you about? Go back and do that research. That is where your answer is. Right? It is not because of finance. It's not because of maybe marketing. A nice point. Let me just stop with one more example. TVS Jive. TVS is a homegrown company, right? In Chennai, you have these bikes, right? TVS Apache and so many bikes, right? TVS is a very popular company. They export their bikes. They came up with a bike called Jive in 2008, 2009. Brilliant bike, I'll tell you, because I owned one personally. What is special about this bike? It is a standard motorbike, right? That typically men drive, not that step-through frame and all that, like for women. It's for men. 110cc, 70 kilometers per liter, no clutch lever. Okay, so you will not have problem in bumper to bumper traffic on Anna Salai. You will not have clutch problems. You can start in any gear, stop in any gear, move in any gear. In a typical Pulsar or Apache, you cannot go in 20 kilometers on 4th gear. Your engine will knock, it will seize, it will stop. But in this bike, you can. Imagine the beauty of riding that bike in bumper to bumper traffic. But that product failed. Today, it's not there in TVS's portfolio. They don't sell that bike anymore. It stopped. Why? In a country where most people use bikes, biking is the main way of commuting. Such a brilliant example. Why did it fail? What was the problem? And that to a huge company like TVS, which had millions and millions of rupees. Branding, advertising, everything was there. Good sales, great after sales support, right? Service center and all that. Why did it fail? So, point for thought. So, do your research. Let's see. So, there are many blind spots, right?
Got it, sir. Thank you very much. The event was fabulous.
Thanks, Tisha. Thank you.
Any others have questions?
Okay, so I think they kind of understood everything, so no questions.
No, you given each and every topic with a live example. It's closely connected to the students, the way how you explain. Really, thank you for the session, sir. And also I have to thank our HOD ma'am for choosing such a good guest for this session. You are much suitable for the topic. Really, thank you a lot, sir, for joining the session today. Santhosh, sir. Sir, mute.
It's a great pleasure for us to have you as a resource person in this topic. As VP said, he has started with a good explanation about the design thinking, and you take over the topic with a new clear-cut, real-time examples in what way the students can able to understand. Why? Because some of the speakers can explain in some difficult manner, but it is very much easy for us to learn. As actually, it is very much interesting for us to gain more knowledge about design thinking. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir, for joining the session. Thank you a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Students, you can fill the feedback